at 7 p.m. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence as we reflect on those serving in the United States Armed Forces, both past and present. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
to the republic
for which it stands,
one
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We're going to have a moment of silence. I didn't get to read the rest of this. Sorry, guys. As we reflect on those serving the United States Armed Forces, both past and present, the elected leaders for the state of Pennsylvania and elected leaders of our nation, we have much to be thankful for in our community. All right, please be seated. All right. We have an executive session announcement. The Board of School Directors met on the following dates in executive session to discuss items in one or more of the following areas: personnel, legal, or state commitments. August 17th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. September, do you want me to read the formats or does it matter?
You decide.
Okay. September 8th, 2020 at 5 p.m. September 21st, 2020 at 6 p.m. All right, item 4, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. And so this evening, we welcome our student body representative, Dante DiNardo. Dante, welcome.
Thank you.
So each month, you're going to give us an update on what's going on around the district. So go ahead. We're anxious to hear.
So first off, I just want to say hi. I look forward to attending the meetings and working with the board to better our community. I'm excited for what the future entails for NJ Roberts, and I'm hoping you all are too. And hopefully we make the best out of a weird situation. So first off, the news and updates from the high school. The high school counseling department has worked to find new ways to support our senior class in the college application process by compiling helpful information and tools while we are virtual. This memo was sent out in a Skylert to parents and can also be found on the website. It's jam-packed with important information, resources, and processes, including upcoming senior conferences and scheduled virtual events. So make sure you look at that. Given the cancellation of new student orientation activities due to COVID-19, the Wildcat Ambassadors held individualized in-person tours of the high school for new students on September 2nd. On Saturday and Sunday, September 12th and 13th, the NJROTC cadets volunteered from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Hay Creek Mini Festival at Joanna's Furnace. Their contribution was in parking cars and being food runners to drive up food orders. And then I have some updates from the high school band. Our marching band has been hard at work since the beginning of August. The band has been carefully following their approved safety plan and have been putting together a show with everyone's health and safety in mind. At the end of August, the band presented a virtual performance through Facebook Live, which was viewed by over 6,000 spectators. The band has 2 live performances scheduled in October, which will allow our OJR band parents an opportunity to view our 2020 show entitled A Blast from OJR's Past. These performances will also be streamed virtually for our community, so make sure you check them out. Key Club held its first virtual meeting on Monday, September 14th. Sarah Zhang is the president of the club and shared information about upcoming events and meetings. The members of the Key Club look forward to providing the school with exceptional service events. From Best Buddies, they had their first virtual meeting on Wednesday, September 16th. It was the orientation meeting, and they discussed how to be a good virtual buddy. Virtual interviews for Best Buddies will be held on the 30th. Lastly, the National English Honor Society, Wildcats in Literature, is working to renew their membership for the 2020-21 school year and will begin the application and induction process soon under the leadership of the NEHS President, Izana Rivers. That's all I got.
Did you receive anything from the elementary schools this time around?
No, I did not. Not yet.
We will make sure that you receive their reports as well next time, so you can report on each of those.
Sounds good.
All right, so the school board wants to know about virtual learning and how's it going for you?
It's for me. It's not too bad. My day's over by like 11:30, so it's not too bad at all because I only have gym in the afternoon. But it's hard sitting in front of a computer and focusing on just that when you're at home. A lot of distractions. But the teachers are doing a really nice job, a very, very good job. They're making a really good. They're making it really easy for us to, learn. They're trying their best to be engaging, and I think the more kids start to participate, the better it'll get.
Are you anxious to return to school in person?
Oh yeah, I'm excited. I think a lot of people are excited.
Well, we're going to talk about that shortly. Next in my report, I want to talk to something that's near and dear to your heart, Dante, which is athletics. And so this evening, we are pleased that the Pioneer Athletic Conference, also known as the PAC, finalized safety protocols for all sports. This will allow us to officially add them to our health and safety plan this evening. Then just this afternoon, and hopefully Dante, you heard this as well. So just this afternoon, the PAC finalized their protocols for spectators, which will allow all home students participating in athletics to be provided with 2 tickets to each event. In addition, there will be the following restrictions: all athletic contests.
Okay, somebody needs to take pickles outside.
All athletic contests are closed to the general public. There will be no walk-up ticket purchases this year. However, the admission for our athletes' families, parents will be free. And only way anybody can get into an athletic competition is with a pass this year. So we're grateful for the Pioneer Athletic Conference for getting that together for the teams that are going to be able to play. Not all are participating this year, but we have at least 6 opponents for you, or 5 opponents, I guess it is for you, Dante, right? 5 opponents for you. All right, so let's talk about coming back to school in person. So Mr. Sanfran, if you will turn over the controls here to me, I will put my presentation up. All right, so let me get my screen to where it needs to be, and I will share this presentation with everyone. Let me get to the beginning of the screen. Sorry about that, folks. So now that we've completed the first 2 weeks of school virtually, I want to talk about moving to phase 2, which is blended learning, also known as hybrid learning. As all of you know, this was our original plan. However, that changed when the Chester County Health Department asked all schools in Chester County to start virtually in order to mitigate the virus. On the screen, I have the 4 sources that we use to inform school reopenings here in Chester County: the CDC, the Pennsylvania Department of Health, the Chester County Health Department, and the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I'm not going to click on the hyperlinks for the ease of presenting here this evening, but when my presentation is live, folks will be able to actually click on those links. We do rely on all 4 sources to inform our decision making. A lot of times people ask me about this metric. Why do we use the metric positive COVID cases per 100,000 and the positivity rate. There's two metrics, two independent metrics of each other that are used. This is the metrics that were recommended by the White House Corona task forces for all schools across the United States to use, and all 4 of these sources utilize that same metric. And so that's why we are using the metric here. I'd like to start by looking at what our data here in Chester County and in our school district currently looks like. So this is the most recent data that I pulled off of the Chester County Health Department's website. There is only one data source. There aren't multiples out there. So whether you're looking at the data on the Chester County website, or whether you're looking at it for the Pennsylvania Department of Health, or on the CHOP, it's all one data source that we're looking at. And so if we look at the data that was just published this past Friday, it's usually late on Fridays when this comes out. And so here's what the most recent data looks like. It starts on, when you look at it on the site, it'll say week 1. I put dates on here so it helps people to understand that week 1 represents this past week. These numbers always include presumptive positive cases. So when you check back from week to week, you actually see the incident rate does decrease and corrects itself as cases are found to be negative, or as people that were tested in Chester County who don't live here, their tests get attributed to the proper location. It also includes the data for our school district as well. We are primarily concerned with Chester County, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We're going to also look at these levels of transmission, and they go from high to moderate to low. So let's first take a look at the CDC. They just came out with this chart last week for schools. You'll notice on the left of my screen, I'm showing the data so that when you're wondering, well, what did she just say the data was? It'll be appearing here on the right side of the screen. So when we take a look at the CDC, if we look at the last 2 weeks of data, it puts us in the high risk of transmission for schools. Although I do want to note that on the CDC's chart, that our school district, when it comes to the 5 key mitigation strategies, appear in the low transmission rate, because all 5 of these strategies are in place, where everybody is consistently using a mask, we're social distancing, we're using good hand hygiene, we're cleaning and disinfecting, and contact tracing is in place. If we look at the Pennsylvania Department of Health chart that they have, remember, here's the data, the same data is appearing. If we look at their chart, Chester County falls in the moderate range. And when you're in the moderate range, we're looking at cases that are between the transmission rate is between 10 and 100, according to the Department of Health. And that allows schools to operate in blended learning or the remote model, which we're in now. Looking at the Chester County Health Department, this is primarily the data that we talk about, because they are who has oversight directly of the school districts in Chester County. And the data has us in the high range for Chester County. These past couple of weeks place us in the high. You'll notice that the cases per 100,000 changes on each of these charts, but even in the Chester County Health Department, we would be falling between virtual and blended learning. This is if you go to the CHOP website, or the CHOP lab, it's actually called. This is a very interesting website. It allows you to look at all the states across the country, and it also allows you to drill down to the data specific to our county. Showing, this is their most current map that is showing the positivity rates. And so right now, our positivity rate is up for Chester County. And the reason I'm showing the map this way with the red circle is because we need to look at this data regionally. The red arrow represents where all of our employees reside within this particular region. Also, this is the region where our students will be competing when it comes to athletics. And so it's important that this we look at the data that's in this area, and that this area is also showing a healthy positivity rate or a declining positivity rate and a declining transmission rate. I mentioned earlier about the projections, and so we look to CHOP to find projections. They've been amazingly accurate using the data that they get from the county, and they update this. This is the last time this was updated was September 14th. And so when we look at this, we can see that right now they're projecting that we will remain in that moderate range. So based on their projections, here's my recommendations for phase 2 for blended learning. Everybody knows that since the beginning of September, we started out with our cyber academy, everyone's virtual, and our special education students are able to come to school. Based on the projections from CHOP, it looks as though we should be able to start blended learning the week of October 12th. We will have been closed the time period that the health department requested. We'd be closed, and so on the 12th, we would bring in grades K to 3. Middle school, we would bring in grade 7. And in high school, we would bring in grade 9. Now remember, in the blended plan, students are broken into groups. And so that's why you're seeing an A, because group A students would come in on the 12th and the 13th. And then group B students in those same grades would come in on the 15th. Then the following week, we would bring in, oops, sorry about that. The following week on the 19th, we would bring in the remaining grades for group A, and then the 8th graders would join, and then the remaining grades at the high school for group A. And then on the 22nd, the remaining students would come in at all of the grade levels. The reason that I'm recommending that we use this phased approach is because every time we add more students into the building, there's an adjustment that needs to take place in our safety protocols and procedures. And so this will allow us to phase in smaller amounts of students than having everybody come back at the same time. It helps also our 7th graders and our 9th graders, who this will be the first time in those schools, to help them to transition to the building as well. And so just to summarize what I said, our target dates, and I'm saying that these are targets because we have to be in that moderate range in order for us to move students to blended learning. And so on the week of the 12th, grades K1, 2, 3, 7, and 9 would come back, and on week 9 of October 19th, the remaining grades would then come back in the blended model based on whichever group that they're assigned to. And so this begs the question, well, what is phase 3? And so phase 3 would be when we would be returned to our traditional 5-day teaching and learning. We're following the science, we're following the metrics that are out there. And whether you're following the CDC, whether you follow the Department of Health, the Chester County Health Department, or CHOP, the recommendation is that we don't return until 5 days of full in-person teaching and learning until we get our incident rates below 10 and our positivity rate below 5%. We have consistently been below 5%. We have not been able to consistently reach below the 10%. And so that's when we would be looking for phase 3. So that concludes my report. We will have a communication going out to parents here this evening, summarizing what I've said, and then the presentation will be accessible on the website about 8 o'clock this evening. So Mr. Sanfran, I'll stop sharing my screen and you can take over managing the meeting from here. This concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Lloyd. All right, item 5 is public comment on agenda items. Information, proposals, and statements from individuals or delegations pertaining to items on the agenda. Speakers are to indicate your name, township of residence, and the item on the agenda to which your comments are addressed. Speakers are limited to not more than 3 minutes. Please understand that this is not a time for dialogue with the board. Rather, the board will listen to all comments and consider them in future deliberations. And then also keep in mind, if you have questions for the school board, you can always feel free to reach out to us via email for a written response. And our email is on the website And then just as a guideline, if you haven't been to one of our Zoom meetings before, we just ask that you use the raise hand function when it's your turn to speak. And then just remember your name and township residence.
Mrs. Prophet, the first one is Heather. Heather, please give your full name and township of residence.
Hi, it's Heather McCreary out of East Coventry. So I want to talk tonight on agenda items 13.2, the Phase School and Athletics Activities Reopening Health and Safety Plan, and also the 13.10 approval of waiving athletic ticket fees if spectator attendance is limited. So I've been emailing you guys on a fairly regular basis. On August 25th, it was at the tech meeting, I said that I would be advocating for these students since it didn't seem like you guys were. And guess what? I did it. My friends and I, and there's a large group of us, and I really, since he's sitting on the board meeting tonight, I want to say a special shout out thank you to Dante DiNardo. His leadership with the help of several other students, Olivia Kira and Kirsten Longworth and several others have been outstanding. With their help and parents and students, and we have so many supporters in the Chestmont and also the Central League. All of these kids are getting to play. The Central League is playing their games. Chestmont's still waiting on a few, and if anybody has any influence with the Great Valley School Board members, I would ask to help reach out because Maureen Helmley out of Great Valley, who's a pediatric nurse at CHOP, was instrumental in getting our kids at O&J to play. Maureen lobbied relentlessly with me to Chester County Department of Health to get the line that was causing trouble removed. So we got that line out of the Department of Health for you. We did rallies, we wrote to people, we did so much work. But I want to real quick say, I'm concerned that you all are doing your best work. At Unionville in the reopening plan actually has all elementary going in every day for core subjects, and then half day they get their specials virtually at home. So every time you approve this, I really think you guys need to be looking at the information and doing your best work, because we discovered that Chester County Department of Health had bad data. And that was also thanks to you guys who had the meeting that allowed Director Kasner to talk. So best work real quick, and I may run out of my 3 minutes, but I think I get 3 minutes on another topic if I come up. So the thing I'm concerned about now is the spectator attendance at the football game. The first football game is senior night. And these students deserve to have as many people in the stadium as possible. The stadium seats 5,000 people. Right now, and we all know it, Governor Wolf is playing games. That stadium could be seated safely, family groups with students 6 feet apart with no risk to anybody. These students deserve to have their friends from the Cat Pack. They deserve to have their grandparents. They deserve to have their siblings come in and watch them play. O&J Roberts doesn't have a fence you can hang around. And I know darn well you guys don't have any live stream.
That's 3 minutes.
Mrs. Prophet, the next person is Miss Denise Wilson.
Okay.
Ms. Wilson, please put your name and township of residence.
Yes, my name is Denise Wilson. I'm in East Vincent Township. And I would like to first speak on agenda item 13.8, the approval of resolution senior citizens tax rebate program. We have heard numerous times directly from Mr. Friel that partisan politics do not belong in the school board. And yet tonight there are several items that go directly to Mr. Friel's personal political agenda. The school board is not someone's personal political playground to integrate yourself with the electorate. It is no longer the public served when you are there simply serving yourself. The Democratic State Republican campaign Facebook page is still using OJR materials, which you are not supposed to be. And regarding you wanting now to forge through a senior rebate at the most is $195. It is clearly for your own campaign purposes. First, back in February of this year, it was clear that $55,000 had to be set aside for the minimal refund. This is a lot of money, and it pays for teachers, it pays for mental health services for professionals. It's profoundly hypocritical for you to be voting for a tax relief bill when you're also voted to increase taxes for this year. And you also have stated taxes will be going up next year. You have made no effort to bring revenue in, and there are other items on tonight that the chiller fees, which you are wasting money on. Taxes have been raised in the district for years, and yet, let alone you raise them again this year as the finance chairman. Also, for years, the district has had the same CFO, Jackie Kremrine. So trying to cover up your wasteful spending with the bond restructure is no excuse. You have not been serving this district, only your own campaign agenda. The second agenda is approval for calling for the charter school funding reform. Again, Mr. Field says that the school is not partisan organization. So why
So
is the
can
school?
I pause for a second here? Because this
Sure.
is something that's actually we've been approving, Melissa, this is the second year we've approved this, or the third year?
Yes, we approved it twice over a year ago, once for the Chester County Legislative Council, and we approved it once as a singular school board. And we feel it's very necessary to the health, the financial health of this district to keep bringing this up to the public and to the State House. So yes, this will be the third time we have approved this resolution. Was that your question?
But this should be, okay, but this should be done by a ballot question, not school board resolution.
No, this is a resolution. It's not a ballot question.
Resolutions done for the purpose of PSBA and PDE are resolutions that are being signed for the purpose of advancing Governor Wolf's agenda. Remember,
that's-
PDE asked the schools to voluntarily follow Governor Wolf's 250 gathering limit that was held to be unconstitutional.
This resolution had nothing to do with that. So I'm not sure where this is getting confused.
But it should be a ballot. It should be on the ballot. It shouldn't, it should be a resolution by you guys.
The particular school, how the school board feels. It's not
Right.
not for the entire community. This is just something that the school board has took a stance on. And it has no relation to Mr. Friel. This is something that the board has been doing for years.
Yes.
So you're just doing the resolution just for you guys, just as a,
No, we're doing this as in an attempt to raise money for the district, not for us.
We're doing it to make a statement that the board feels this is necessary to maintain financial health within our own school district and other school districts.
and you're going to send it to the governor.
Yes, because each year, and this year in particular, we're going to spend over $2 million on charter schools. And so if public schools do not take a stand publicly against charter schools and demand reform, our school districts will continue to lose millions of dollars. And the ONJ School District is no exception to this. Even despite our creating our own cyber academy, this year we will lose over $2 million to pay for other children who live in this school district to attend those school districts. So it's incumbent that every public school in this state of Pennsylvania take a stand against reforming the cyber schools and charter schools of this state.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. If you have more questions about this, you can feel free to reach out to us.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Prophet, Heather McCreary.
Is there no more, just to clarify, is there any more?
There is no more with their hand raised. Mrs. McCreary, you are unmuted.
Okay, so I would like to comment on that 13.13 resolution of charter reform, because I too don't understand that, because this school board, I don't understand. And again, I don't need to have the debate back and forth. You, the school board, since you chose to dialogue with Mrs. Wilson, are saying that you are willing to write to the governor on a topic. Yet we all know that not allowing spectators in over 250 people is something you could also write to the governor on, and not one of you has done it. And you are limiting the money coming into this district when you are saying people cannot get into the stadium. And I am begging you, pleading with you, for one time on Friday night, senior night, please let the maximum number of people into the stadium that can sit in family groups 6 feet apart with masks on. Do it for the kids. The kids didn't get the graduation. The kids didn't get the prom. At the rate we're going, we're lucky if we get graduation in May. Please do the right thing and let the most number of kids in for senior night. Let their friends in, let them sit safely. These senior kids, they deserve that night to have their family there. And also, you should be collecting money, because you shouldn't be worried about the money that's going out for charter schools when you are purposely not collecting money for the tickets. And also, on another topic, on the construction change order, you promised us that that money that was going out for the chillers, that was it. So those contractors, they should be paying that extra $28,000, not this district. Thank you.
Mrs. Prophet, if I could just clarify that our goal was for our students to have the opportunity to compete. And so the PAC school districts that are going to be competing authorized a statement of protocols by which every school agreed they would follow for the competitions this fall, and that included spectators. And so we've agreed with all the other PAC schools, because it's not just our responsibility to keep our athletes safe, we must keep the other athletes safe when they are here on our property. And so this is what was agreed by the PAC schools to allow spectators, when there are many school districts in our state that are not permitting spectators at all. I am grateful for the PAC that they came up with their detailed protocols for us to follow, and I am grateful that they are allowing at least 2 spectators for every athlete that will be on that field.
All right, thank you, Dr. Light. And I just wanted to say, you know, to say that we aren't advocating for our kids is a little insulting, because I think each and every one of us is on this board because we want to advocate for our kids, and we want to see it done right by our kids. And to say that we haven't been doing anything is not true. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. So just please keep that in mind. That we're not just sitting here.
I would also like to make that statement. I have been on Zoom meetings for months, 3 and 4 a week, advocating for those exact same things. I don't advertise them, but I'm advocating continually for our students whenever and wherever I can.
Mrs. Prophet, there is one more public comment. Massey S. Massey S., please give your full name and township of residence.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. My name's Samantha Massey, and I live in East Vincent Township. I guess it would be on 13.13 then, what Heather just referenced. I guess to follow up, I just have a question about, is there a restriction on who those guest passes can be given to?
13.13 is the chillers. Are
Oh.
you?
The charter school, 13.13.
Oh, 13.13 is charter school funding.
Are you
Okay.
She's talking about 1310, I think. Spectators.
Yes, please. Yes, 1310. Sorry.
1310.
Our
Thank
health
you.
and safety plan?
Yes, as a part of the health and safety plan. So 2 tickets were given to every student.
Will be.
Athlete that will be given. Yes,
You only
sorry.
just found out today. Can you even do it?
Are they restricted to, can the athlete give them to whoever they want? Would be my question.
The only way for a person, anybody to get in the gate is to have a ticket. So if the athlete chooses to give their tickets to their grandparents, then we would be allowing the grandparents who have the tickets to come into the event.
Okay. And then also as a follow-up question, spectators, when they come in and they pay money, doesn't that money go to the Roberts Athletic Association, not to the school directly?
Mrs. Crumrine, would you like to just comment on that?
Sure, I'd be happy to comment. No, when the ticket fees, the ticket revenue actually goes into the general fund of the school district to help offset expenditures of the athletic program. The Roberts Athletic Association runs one of the concession stands. And other fundraising events they do.
Right. Okay.
And I believe we don't make a lot of money, correct?
I was going to ask what the net profit was going to be for a game. What's the net profit on a game? Does anybody know?
There is never a net profit on a game.
Great. Thank you. That answered my question.
because we have to pay for officials and the utilities, and so there's never a profit on games.
Mrs. Prophet, the next one is Andrea. Andrea, please give your name and township of residence, please.
Hi, oops. This is Andrea Manival in East Vincent Township. If I'm off, I think 13.2, the phase school and athletics reopening. If I'm assuming by reading the attachment that this has to do with actual opening of school. Am I correct on that?
Well, the phase school and athletics reopening health and safety plan comes before the board every month. And so as new guidelines are added or new health and safety procedures are added, the board has to keep reapproving the plan. So they talk about the new additions during their committee of the whole or their pupil services committee, and then the board votes to adopt those changes to the plan every month. So this will be coming before the board every month as long as we're in this pandemic.
Okay. So maybe this is what I was thinking. So my question is, maybe this is more related to what your report was, Dr. Lloyd. So if you're doing this phased opening for blended, for the cyber kids, I understand, we can eventually send our children back. And my daughters are in cyber. We would like them to be eventually in school because honestly, virtual learning is not great at all times. It's been a struggle. So how is that going to work with, the numbers restricted to be, my understanding is 15 kids per classroom, like in the elementary school. I'm not sure of the high school. How is that being accounted for? I haven't seen that anywhere. So I'm just curious if there's a plan in place for that.
So, Mrs. Manival, this is not part of public comment.
Okay.
Mrs. Prophet may want me to wait until later in the meeting to respond to that. This is just on the voting items, okay? So we'll come back to that at the end of the meeting.
Okay, I apologize. I wasn't sure. Thank you.
We'll that at the end of the meeting.
Mrs. Prophet, Mrs. Claire Hampton. Claire, you're unmuted.
Hi, I'm Claire Hampton. I'm from East Coventry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. I just wanted to comment on 1310, the spectators item. And my question just is, there's only 2 tickets allowed per person, and you're a senior and it's your senior game. I'm just confused. Am I supposed to choose my grandmother, my mom, my dad, or my sister, who all live in the same building as me? Like, I like some more clarification on why it's only 2 tickets, because if the mom, the dad, and sister all live in the same building, it's all the same germs. So I'm just confused as to why we decided on 2 tickets and how that's going to be regulated, and also how you expect seniors especially to choose which one of their loved ones can come watch their last game. So that would be my comment.
So Susan, I'm going to pass that along to you if you want to go back over the PAC.
Right, and so that's what the PAC has permitted each of the schools to give out is 2 tickets to the home team athletes for each of the events. And the good news is that almost all of the schools, and hopefully by the time we have the first football game, all schools will figure out how to live stream. And so they'll be live streaming the games because after all of the visiting team will not be able to watch. And so we will have to watch the live stream when our athletes go and play away. And so we will be live streaming also, which will allow the guests to watch and any other family members to be able to watch as well. Tough choices for everyone to have to make this year.
Mrs. Prophet, that's the end of public comment.
Okay. I just have to say I'm really grateful that the PAC agreed to spectators. I think it's really important for our kids to have their loved ones watch. So All right, moving on to item 6, which is board committee reports. Committee of the Whole. A meeting of the Committee of the Whole was held on September 8th, 2020 at 6 p.m. The following committees met at that time: Curriculum and Instruction Committee, Pupil Services and Special Education Committee, Technology and Communications Committee. The board was provided a draft copy of the meeting minutes. Item 6.2, Buildings and Grounds Committee. Mrs. Booth.
Thank you, Madam President. Buildings and Grounds Committee last met April 6th, 2020. No standalone meetings are presently scheduled. Summer project summary, I will give you an update on that. Playground mulching is 100% complete. Paving repairs and crack filling is in progress. Signage repairs, replacement, security numbers 100% installed. Parking lot signs 75% installed. Other miscellaneous signage to be done in September and October. The East Vincent Playground Pavilion is currently underway. That is a PTA-funded project. The high school gym floor refinishing and West Vincent gym floor repair, they are 100% complete. The high school miscellaneous flooring replacement is 100% complete. The high school chiller project is complete. Chilled water is being supplied to the building on time. All sanitary dispensers have been installed, and the West Vincent Commons area conversion to 2 classrooms is also 100% complete. For under new business, I will just like to make a comment. Closeout for the new East Coventry building is still underway. All internal punch list items have been cleared up. A few issues do remain. You will probably notice there are replacing dead plantings at the moment. Hopefully this will come about when we have all our warranties in place quickly. Under new business, 13.10 is a high school chiller project construction change order. MC-032, Myco Mechanical of Telford, Pennsylvania. This is due to multiple unseen leaks in existing underground chiller water piping. Additional work was required. To finalize the project with expectations of long-term performance resulted in an additional net expense of $28,272.80, well within the construction budget. As stated during the summer project update, the system is up, running, and working well. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mrs. Booth. Item 6.3, Chester County Intermediate Unit.
Chester County Intermediate Unit met on September 16th at 7 p.m. There was some review of the completion of some planned projects over the summer, including the opening of a new building for the Brandywine Virtual Academy, which of course the Virtual Academy has had an explosion in attendees this year due to multiple school districts relying on them to deliver their virtual schooling this fall. But they report that it's been going well. There are a lot of programs open that are run by the CCIU. They run programs all the way from pre-K up to 12th grade. And in the technical high schools, they have also had some improvement in facilities there. And we got to see some great pictures of students enjoying the new areas that have been built for them. The CCIU is also running a virtual college fair and also trying to move other activities that have been planned for the fall into virtual rather than in-person modes. Their next meeting will be on October 21st at 7 p.m.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Wilson. Item 6.4, Curriculum and Instruction Committee, Mrs. DiMarino.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Prophet. The Curriculum Committee met on September 8th as part of the Committee of the Whole. And there were 2 agenda items. Dr. Soter discussed the flexible instructional day application, and there were 2 texts presented to the committee. I'm happy to report that the district has been approved for using the flexible instructional days, and Dr. Soter will discuss this further at our next curriculum meeting. The sociology text and the sports psychology text are both on the agenda tonight for approval. And then finally, the supervisors, principals, and technology staff have been working with the teachers to support our students in the virtual environment, as well as those students who are in the schools now. We will get an update at our next curriculum committee meeting about the cyber and blended programs. And that next curriculum committee meeting is scheduled for part of the Committee of the Whole on Monday, October 5th at 6 p.m. And that's all I have, Mrs. Prophet.
Thank you, Mrs. DiMarino. Item 6.5, Finance Committee, Mr. Friel.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll refer you to agenda items 13.4, 13.5, which is the Teamsters contract and project staff. Both are one-year terms. It's modest financial impact. And basically due to the pandemic, we agreed not to enter into any long-term contracts at this point, taking it 1 year at a time until the economy becomes more stable. And we appreciate it, working with the Teamsters and our staff on this. We appreciate everything you guys do. And we're looking forward to hopefully being out of this next year as we discuss, our going forward. Agenda 13.8 is the resolution on the approval for the senior tax rebate program. If you remember, this was approved back in the early spring. It was voted to move forward. But with COVID, we decided, hey, let's wait until September. So now it's September, it's back on the agenda there. Agenda item 13.10 is just waiving athletic ticket fees. I think Dr. Lloyd went over. 13.2, the construction change order. Melissa hit that in the buildings and grounds. We won't mention that. And resolution for the charter funding reform. It's just, if you take a look at it, we used to spend about $820,000 a year on charter. Last year we spent about $1.3 million. We're going to spend well over $2 million. So in the last 5 years, it's over $5 million that we spent. And the funding reform is every single public school in the Commonwealth is asking for reform so that there's a different set of accountabilities in place that it's more aligned with what the public schools are. And I know Melissa's been spearheading that for a number of years and has been advocating with PSBA and has taken the lead on this and on a variety of lobbying efforts on behalf of the school district. So thank you, Melissa. Other updates, over the summer, we were able to take advantage of the lower interest rates, and we refunded a series of bond debts with a total savings of $5.5 million over the life of the bonds. So that's a great job to the team in the finance and Jackie Crumrine and her team and the school district staff putting that together. So thank you guys. You see taxpayers a lot of money there. And then revenue tracking, just, we said we'd give an update. As we looked through COVID, we weren't sure how things were going to go. Revenue tracking through the summer and through the initial tax is tracking very close to last year. We'll have a better idea because of the extension of the tax was extended by a little bit here when it was due, but we're tracking about where we were last year. So that's a good sign in terms of revenue projections. And the bulk of the taxes will be collected by the end of this month. So I think we're in good shape there. I think I hit everything there, and back to you, Madam President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Friel. Item 6.6, Legislative and Policy Committee. Dr. Melnizak.
Good evening, Madam President. The committee has not met since the last board meeting, but if you look under 7.12, there will be some policies received for the board for the first reading. And then under 13.3, there's also some policies that are listed for the second reading. And our next meeting will be October 12th, and hopefully we'll see some students around us. That's it.
All right, thank you, Dr. Melnizak. Item 6.7, Personnel Committee, Mrs. Stutzman.
Good evening. It says here in minutes it was August 24th, but I actually believe it was August 27th that the Personnel Committee had a planning meeting regarding personnel matters. I wanted to provide a quick update on what's the word? It's not investigation, but
Third party.
Pardon me?
Third party.
Yeah, the third-party review of our practices, policies around the issues that have taken place recently in the district. And Ms. Hodge has provided her findings for us to review. We're meeting with her soon, in a week or two, I believe, in order to review those findings. And then shortly, right after that, we will release all that we are able to the public. So a quick update that we are looking forward to reviewing her findings very shortly and then being able to release them as well. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Stutzman. Item 6.8, which is Pupil Services and Special Education. Pupil Services met the Committee of the Whole on September 8th to review updates to the health and safety plan. At that point in time, the Chester County Health Department was still recommending no sports until January 2021. The committee had discussed updating the verbiage at the beginning of the plan from will follow recommendations to may. This will give the district a little more freedom with so many recommendations being issued. The committee also discussed adding the CHOP guidelines for sports to the plan and moved this forward after administration agreed and recommended that action. Since that meeting, there have been a few updates. The Chester County Health Department has updated their recommendation. They are now recommending that districts that choose to pursue sports update their health and safety plan with guidance for safe sports. The second update is that the PAC released their guidance, as Susan had mentioned. Sorry, as Dr. Lloyd had mentioned, administration's recommendation is that we move forward with the PAC guidance instead of CHOPS, as CHOPS guidance is limiting for sports. The plan currently reflects the change from the committee moving CHOP guidance forward and then administration's recommendation to follow PAC guidance instead. The plan the board will be voting on will ultimately be following the PAC's guidance and not CHOPS. The PAC also released their guidance on spectators for sports, as Dr. Lloyd had mentioned, and every athlete will receive 2 guest passes to use for home games. That being said, I still want to ask that the community continue to work with us and continue to practice healthy habits. I'm not sure if you've seen on social media, the district is being sending out their own Wildcat Pillars of Defense with the acronym PAWS that talks about healthy, safe habits. I thought that was really cute, guys. And that concludes my report. And then item 6.9 is Technology and Communications Committee.
All right. Thank you. The Technology and Communications Committee did meet on August 25th at 7 p.m. We discussed the state of technology acquisitions and ramping up technology for the start of virtual classes. And all reports seem to indicate that it's gone as well as can be expected. And we also got an update on the planned website upgrade for this year. It was impacted timeline-wise by all the additional things from the pandemic that have had to happen this year, but that is still being planned for this school year. We also discussed some need for looking at how we approach communications, particularly around surveys. I know that the administration has already identified one potential vendor for us to take advantage of for a new approach to how we do surveys. And there was also some discussion around a potential need for additional resources, just the beginnings of conversation around whether we are sourced appropriately compared to other districts in the area of audiovisual and communications. We do not currently have a meeting on the calendar, but we do need to add one. One question for you, Dr. Lloyd, that I forgot to get clarification on earlier. Is the administration going to be identifying other vendors for surveys we should be considering so that we could have one meeting to review all of them?
Yes, we'll have other vendors for you.
Okay, yeah, so we will not have that date on the calendar yet, but stay tuned for those who are interested. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mrs. Munson. Item 7. Item 7.1, motion to approve recommended routine matters, consent items 7.2 through 7.12. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Deal, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Friel, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 8.1, motion to approve routine matters, consent items 8.2 through 8.3. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Deal, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Booth, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 9, which is board discussion. I do have one topic for everyone. I think I had mentioned it to a few of you. I apologize, I didn't get to send it to everyone just to think about. So we had started last year committee goals. And we are at the point where we would need to recap our past committee goals and start looking at new committee goals. The thought that I had was that committee goals are really surrounding district goals, and they're really, the action that's being taken is by administration, and administration has their own goals. I know that there was a recommendation from a past interim superintendent to institute goals, and that was really to give the board direction at that time. I think right now we've got a lot of direction in where we're going, trying to reopen schools. So I just wanted to feel everyone else out to see what their thoughts were on committee goals and whether or not you thought they were important, if we're, or are we all still marching towards the same district goals?
Oh, well, I would feel it is an extraordinary year, and our main focus, I think, because of the extraordinary circumstances we're under, that we should be focusing on getting our kids back in school and supporting the administration in the district goals. At this point, I would be fine with at least, I think we should review what we did accomplish as far as committee goals, but I'm not sure. I would think maybe we could suspend coming up with individual committee goals this year, depending on how everyone else feels. We do have our plates extremely full, not just with ourselves, but also with administration and all the building issues that are going on. I mean, the facility issues, I don't mean construction issues. That's my thought on that.
I think
go ahead. No, finish.
I'm agreeing with you, Melissa. I think that makes sense that, and to Leslie's point, we're aligned, and I think our goals are the staff and the administration's goals. So to the extent that, I think our goal is, how can we be aligned with what you're trying to accomplish and be supportive of that and move that forward. I think there's a lot going on right now that's really laser focused on, and there's going to be so much involved in getting kids back into school and standing that up. And so I don't think we want to try to be a distraction for administration if we're, there's just too much fluidity. And I think we're best served is all our committees working towards that common purpose of and be aligned towards what the administration's trying to serve, which is get the kids back in school.
I would say,
go ahead, Lydia.
I agree, although I would say we shouldn't lessen up any of the things that the individual committees are wanting to focus on or needing to focus on, right? So we should still, each committee still has goals that we're working toward. I think the clarifying point that I heard from Leslie that really stuck out for me and I agree with is that at the end of the day, a lot of times I believe the committee goals end up restating what are already goals of the administration, and we should be governing and directing and providing guidance, not necessarily restating the not tactical goals, but the details of that. So if anything, maybe we need governing statements or direction or guidance and as far as a goal is concerned, but I agree that I don't believe we need to come up with every year our tactical goals, because at the end, again, they're what the administration is working toward, because we're providing that governance and guidance toward that.
I think you have 7 or 8 committees. You create 4 or 5 goals per committee. All of a sudden, we got 35 or 40 sub goals on top of the administrative goals. And to me, it just simply dilutes our efforts of focusing on the major things that this district needs to pay attention to.
Yeah. And the point of the committee is not to come up with their own separate goals. It's to support that of the district.
Correct.
It's to figure out what those big goals are and how your committee can be most effective in executing on those goals.
Right. Agreed 100%.
So yeah, sounds like we're pretty much in agreement, Leslie.
Okay, so then is everyone comfortable with, well, I'll present our goals from the past goals and the progress that was made And then when Susan presents the district goals, I mean, those are the goals that we're marching towards. And I think Mrs. Sussman, the administration goals kind of fuel out of those district goals too. So we are kind of touching on all of them. It's more nitty gritty too. And like you said, we don't need to get into the nitty gritty.
I have a couple of things for discussion, if we're done with that one, Leslie. One, Susan, how would you describe the experience of we haven't met as a board since school actually opened. What's the experience been for our special ed students who've returned? Do you think it's been better than you expected, as expected, or more challenging? How would you characterize it?
Well, you have to remember that even though we invited all special education students to return, not all returned. So special education teachers are teaching students that are in front of them and students that are home online. And so that's true for all of our teachers. And so that's a challenge for not just special education teachers, but all teachers across the board, to have some students in front of you while you are virtual with the others. But you can't even compare the quality of education for a special education student to be here in person versus when they were virtual in the spring, and everything that we can do for those students when they are with us. We're able to do amazing things virtually for special education, but there's just so much more that we can do, and it's not all academics when they're here with us in person.
And from a health and safety standpoint, things have been going smoothly?
Oh, that's been great. Our plan is being executed as we expected it to be. We have housekeepers during the day who, as soon as the students come through the doors, are starting at the front of the buildings with the high touch surfaces, and they continue all through the day. No concerns at all with wearing masks. All of the students are compliant when it's coming to wearing masks. Staff obviously have been all along. So we're very, very pleased with that. Our nurses, though, even with such a small number of students in the building, this is very taxing, keeping track of who went to get tested, who's presumptive positive, who's positive, how long are they quarantined for, when can they come back. So that's a daunting task for our nurses, and they are, as always, doing a yeoman's effort here.
My second question, more of a comment, goes to the earlier discussion both on school reopening and athletics. I think as a board, I think we'd all be in agreement that nobody knows what the future holds, right? We've been dealing with conflicting information since March, right? From multiple organizations. When somebody's back against the wall, they say, well, it's not a mandate, it's just a recommendation. It's up to the local boards, which puts us over a barrel between the community, the kids, the governmental authorities, and all this. I think for us to say that we don't expect that there might be cases, we've already seen cases, even in the limited activities that we've carried out. I think it's important for the community to understand that what we seek is some degree of consistency. We can push the envelope all we want, but if kids start getting sick at athletic events, there isn't going to be a season for a couple of weeks, right? If we push the envelope in terms of in-school education, in-person education, I should say, we run the risk of shutting schools down from time to time. And now, if you thought that virtual was bad, think about when you were counting on your kids being in school, but next week we're virtual and all the plans are up in the air. So we're trying to make a decision in the face of a situation where not even the healthcare experts can accurately predict where we go from here. And so I think the community needs to keep in mind, and I know, Susan, this has been your approach, that there is some value in consistency, right? Being the first one to rush to open anything when it looks like there is some, questionable data about whether we'll be able to sustain it is certainly, I know, in the mind of the administration and also of this board. And certainly if anyone disagrees with my read of that situation, I'd invite you to comment. And then tacking on to that, I do want to say thanks on behalf of our board to the teachers, right? The teachers who have shown up to teach in person, because I think their willingness to do so and to embrace the change that has come is maybe one of the reasons why we're in a position to be in an accelerated position to bring students back, even on a blended basis, because they've had a chance to work with the technology. They've had an opportunity to kind of experience this. And I just want to say thanks. It's a group effort. We're in it together. And I know we as a board appreciate all the sacrifices that they have made and that we'll all be called to continue to make as we move forward. So thanks.
I think that my crystal ball is on back order because I really need a crystal ball and would appreciate if I could get one from one of you to be able to see into the future. But if we go back and we think it was August 14th when we had to make that decision to go virtual, the health department was exactly right. It said there would be a spike after Labor Day and we would be shut down right now because you saw there were 2 weeks of data that were high. And so we would be shut down for the next 3 weeks because if we had opened where we stayed closed, and so we've been able to get some consistency. Our students are mastering the technology as well as our teachers so that we will be better positioned for when we reopen. But make no mistake, we're going to see this again. We're going to have Thanksgiving. We're going to have Christmas. We're going to have New Year's. And so we're going to continue to see those spikes. And the more consistency we can provide for our children, the better off we are. And I know those are hard choices for parents to make. And that this is very hard for parents right now to be trying to teach their children while they're working from home. But the more consistency that they can bring and we can bring to their lives, the better off we are going to be in the long run. As I know some people are thinking, is Cyber Academy for me? Isn't it for me? Just remember that when we get to Thanksgiving, it's possible everybody could be virtual again, and Christmas, everybody could be virtual again. We're going to be in and out of this. We're seeing it in Lancaster County. Every day, there's more and more schools that are closing because they opened 5 days. They didn't do a phased reopening like we did in Chester County. There's no one right way. It's everybody's first pandemic. We're all just trying to do the best we can. But we can be certain that we're going to have moments where the transmission is very high and we may have to close schools.
So Dr. Lloyd, just one question about the process, and that is, up until we actually have cases, everybody says it's a recommendation. But now we have a positive case in the school. Chester County Health Department is notified. They come in, do contact tracing. And at that point, are they telling us when it's time to shut the school down?
And so that's a conversation that they have. They tell us who needs to be quarantined.
Okay.
We look at how many cases there are. We look at where the cases came from. If we have community spread within the school, then we will be closing. And they will be helping with us with making that decision. And so we have an individual that tracks all of our cases across the district because it's possible we could have community spread just within the school district, and that could shut down multiple schools. So all of that is being monitored every day, and we are in close contact with the health department.
So because we don't know, I think we as a group are opting on the side of choice, making available as much choice in terms of cyber versus in-person options, athletic competition, or I just can't let my child participate. Those are all choices, but at some point it may not be our choice, unfortunately, if we do see increased incidence of cases.
That's correct. And if we close our high school because we have community spread in our high school, then there will be no athletic competitions. It's just like a snow day when you can't drive on the roads. The same thing's going to happen. It's going to put us out of commission. And so we may have to close a school, we may have to close athletic events, we may have to close multiple schools. We won't know until the time comes. But thankfully, we have a very responsive health department who will be right there along with us, helping us make those decisions.
Well, I just want to say, to reiterate, Dr. Lloyd, you put together a flexible plan to give the kids the most opportunity to potentially play these games or to go to school in person. And I do appreciate that you've given us and worked with the staff and the teachers and all our staff to find a way to give the best opportunity for our kids to potentially come into school and play these games and not take it away from them, in one broad stroke. It's going to be data driven by what happens. We don't want community spread. And so we are going to be, try to keep our kids in our community safe, but at the same time recognizing they need to be in school and they need to be able to play sports and do these things. So we look to find the best way forward to provide both of those things. And just to, I wanted to give a shout out to I know John and Leslie, you're being a little modest in your advocacy, and Susan too. I know you guys all talked to the Chester County Health Department on multiple occasions. You guys were lobbying to get guidance to allow us to have sports and to do those things, and as a bunch of other schools were too. And Melissa, I know you've been, great lobbying here and providing with this. When I talk to the county commissioners, lots of school districts are in the same boat and trying to get these things and try to find what's the best way forward and providing some guidance. So it's not just, hey, everybody up. And I think the balance that came out of the PAC with everybody's efforts is great. So, I just wanted to special shout out to you guys, because I know you put a lot of extra effort in and made a lot of calls to try to make that happen.
I want to comment too, just on the whole thing with the PAC. I'm just kind of curious, Dr. Lloyd, when your crystal ball arrives, maybe you could help us understand just, is the PAC going to continue to look at these guidelines? Because I really do think, and I think we all agree, there's a lot of difference between having just 2 parents per athlete when you're at the football stadium versus in a volleyball court or in a smaller venue. And, I think that's kind of a hard pill to swallow when you're thinking about being outdoors in a large area that you can, that we're limited to the 250 or whatever versus, you can have 500 people in a Costco or whatever. So I'm just wondering about the PAC, do they have, are they going to schedule updates to their guidance? Are they going to continue to look at this? I know that in other places of Pennsylvania, as the transmission goes down, they have lots more flexibility for a lot more people than just 2 per athlete. So I'm curious about that. And also just on this same topic, I know that not all sports teams have tickets that you pay for. So if you go, if you want to go watch, field hockey, you're not paying to go see that. So how does that work with parents? Are there going to be tickets to a cross-country meet? Are there going to be tickets? How is all that going to be handled to follow all these guidelines? That's my first question. If Dr. Lloyd, if you have anything to say on that.
Well, we only got this guidance at 2:00 today, so I'm not really sure. But what I can tell you is that not all schools in the PAC wanted spectators. And so that's when I say I am grateful that we were able to achieve this today. I am truly grateful because not everyone wanted spectators. And there's even some rumblings that schools will not play if we go over 250 in our stadium. And we will go over 250 in our stadium just from the athletes, the news crew, and the referees. So I am just grateful we got what we got out of this. And like I said, we only achieved it at 2:00 today. But every event where there are spectator seats, there will be tickets too, because we will have security that has to be monitoring the people are wearing masks. And I just don't want anything to prevent our kids from being able to compete. just because adults wouldn't follow rules. So I just want our kids to be able to compete. So I guess they'll talk some more, but for right now, this is what we have to at least get ourselves started.
So you do think that some schools might not play if we end up over 250 just because of our team size or whatever? You know what I mean? Do you think games are going to be canceled just based on that?
I hope not. I hope not, but not all teams voted in favor of having spectators.
Okay.
And so the vote passed because we already ruled. But each school district has to make the decisions for their own individual community, as we keep hearing time and time again, that when they can't make a decision at the state level, it suddenly becomes a local control issue. And so school boards have to each decide what they're going to do to keep their community safe.
Okay, and I just have one other thing just to throw out there. You talked about you know, the people cleaning and the housekeeping during the day and everything and cleaning everything. I don't know how that exactly is going, but I'm just wondering if, you know, when we get into the blended option, whether it would be considered to switch from the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday to do, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, to alleviate having these long stretches where kids aren't in school. I know some other districts are doing it that way and having Friday be the asynchronous day instead of Wednesday. I just wonder whether or not that should be something to consider going forward if the housekeeping seems to be able to keep up with, you know, whatever needs to be done during the day and, you know, not needing the middle of the week to be empty like that.
We made a, I'm not sure why we were getting all that feedback, but we chose Wednesday because it would be between groups A and group B. So for 2 days at a time, you have the same groups of students in the building. And then on Wednesday, there's a break. And so Wednesday would be the deep cleaning day before you now brought in a whole nother group of students. And so that was how we arrived at it being Wednesdays.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I was just curious about whether or not if the housekeeping feels that that's really still necessary to have that entire day or not, because I know that not everyone's doing that, and just something to think about, because it does seem to be hard on kids to have that big stretch like that.
Okay.
I would like to add that I don't have a crystal ball. However, I went to magic-8ball.com and entered, will OGAR be in a blended model starting October 12th? And it says, yes, definitely.
Thank you for the words of wisdom.
There you go.
We'll take it.
We'll take it.
All right, any other board discussion?
I think there were some good discussions there.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to item 10, which is board communication. Mrs. Crumrine.
Thank you, Ms. Prophet. There are 3 communications this month. The first one is from Janelle and Chad Grimm, and that was regarding student athletics. The second and third communications were from Heather McCreary. The first one was regarding student athletics, and the second one was just sharing updated guidance regarding student athletics in general. That is all that I have.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Carmine. Item 11.1, old business. Do we have any old business?
None.
Okay. All right, item 12, new business. 12.1, motion to approve personnel matters, consent items 12.2 through 12.14. And then the recommended action. The board will make a motion to approve the following personnel matters, which are items 12.2 through 12.14 as action consent items. Any approval of appointment of personnel under these action consent items is expressly made contingent upon the district's ability to conduct and/or participate in the related program and/or activity in the light of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. In the event the district schools are 1, closed or providing modified programming, 2, unable to conduct or participate in programs or activities due to the direction or recommendations of outside agencies, including but not limited to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, the Pennsylvania Department of Health, the Governor's Office, the Chester County Health Department, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association, etc. Or 3, the district administration determines not to conduct and/or participate in any program or activity to ensure the safety of students, staff, and the community. The district shall not be liable to compensate personnel appointed herein for such programs and/or activities. In the event some programs and activities are conducted and/or held on a limited basis, compensation for personnel shall be paid on a pro rata basis commensurate with the percentage of the program season activity that was held and during which students participated. The decision to cancel, discontinue, and/or alter programs and activities shall be at the exclusive discretion of the district administration as previously authorized by the board pursuant to the district's health and safety plan. Okay. So I have a motion.
So moved.
Oh, that was a few. I think Mrs. Stutzman, was that you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have a second.
Second.
Dr. Malnazek, any discussion?
I'd just like to reiterate exactly what you said. These payments will be made commensurate upon these activities going forward. In case there's any misconception in the public, we will not be paying for things that do not occur. I'd just like to emphasize that. You stated it very well, but I just wanted to make that emphasis again.
Well, it wasn't what I wrote. This was
well, you read it well. Just wanted to emphasize it.
Thanks.
It was I think a good clarity point.
Mm-hmm.
Any more discussion? No? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Item 13, new business. 13.1, approval of 2021 PSBA slate of candidates. And then the recommended action is approval of 2021 PSBA slate of candidates. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Booth, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Munson, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 13.2, phase school and athletics activities reopening health and safety plan updates. Approval of the phase school and athletics activities reopening health and safety plan updates as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. DiMarino, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Booth, any discussion? I think we've discussed this a lot.
Yes.
No more discussion.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 13.3, approval of policies for second reading. Approval of policies for second reading as recommended by the Legislative and Policy Committee for the August 10th, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Deal, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Friel, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 13.4, approval of the agreement with Teamsters Local Union 384. Approval of the agreement with Teamsters Local Union 384 for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021 as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Stutzman, do I have a second?
Moved.
Mr. Friel, any discussion?
I would just like to reiterate what Mr. Friel said earlier. We held off any long-term contractual agreements, but I appreciate the Teamsters working with us and maintaining what we do have, and we're at least able to respond in some manner. So I think it worked out very well, and I'm pleased that this is going forward. We will be revisiting this next year.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.5, approval of policy 508.4, agreement with project staff. Approval of policy 508.4, agreement with project staff effective July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021 as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Mrs. Stutzman, do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. Malnazek, any discussion?
Same could be said that I said the last time. We
Yeah.
worked this out, and we're all pleased to go forward with this, and we'll be revisiting all these issues at a later time.
Yes, the entire community realizes that there are sacrifices, and everybody has not been selfish about it. So
Correct.
congrats everybody.
Yep, we're in this together.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, 13.6, ratification approval of mentor teachers. Ratification approval of the appointment of the following mentor teachers assigned to new contracted and/or replacement teachers as presented for the 2021 school year. Compensation, fringe benefits, and conditions of employment are as contained in the collective bargaining agreement between the board and the Roberts Education Association. In the event the district schools are 1, closed or providing modified programming, 2, unable to conduct or participate in programs or activities due to the direction or recommendations of outside agencies, including but not limited to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, the Pennsylvania Department of Health, the Governor's Office, the Chester County Health Department, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association, etc. Or 3, the district administration determines not to conduct and/or participate in any program or activity to ensure the safety of students, staff, and the community. The district shall not be liable to compensate personnel appointed herein for such programs and/or activities. In the event some programs and activities are conducted and/or held on a limited basis, compensation for personnel shall be paid on a pro rata basis commensurate with the percentage of the program season activity that was held and during which students participated. The decision to cancel, discontinue, or alter programs and activities shall be at the exclusive discretion of the district administration as previously authorized by the board pursuant to the district's health and safety plan. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So,
Mrs. DiMarino, do I have a second?
second.
Mrs. Booth, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.7, approval of student activity clubs and organizations, advisors, and student officers. Approval of the student activity clubs and organizations, advisors, and student officers in accordance with the provisions of Section 511 of the Pennsylvania School Code for the 2021 school year as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Melnizek, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mrs. Stutzman, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? Or, sorry, any opposed? Motion passes. 13.8, approval of resolution and senior citizens tax rebate program. Approval of the resolution and senior citizens tax rebate program as presented. The approval of this resolution is being recommended by the Finance Committee for their March 9th, 2020 committee meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Booth, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Friel, any discussion?
I would just like to clarify, this does not do away with the Starfish program. I think they can run concurrently. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
My only question is regarding the timing of this. So why would we not consider this? Weren't there other programs that we suspended because we weren't sure what revenues we were looking at, and eventually we were going to see how the revenue shook out, and then maybe reconsider? Like, didn't we cut or postpone on a speech therapist and the late busing stuff and other options? Are we reconsidering any of those at some point?
I'll let Jackie speak to this, but I think everything that could be brought forward was all brought forward through September. I think some of them dropped off on the transportation because of COVID, and like the pay to play discussion, just because obviously we're in virtual. So
Yeah, pay to play, I get, because we can't pay if we don't know if we're playing. But I guess, when do we get back together on the overall how it's looking and what we do? Or is this the only thing we're considering adding back?
Wasn't there a gifted teacher as well, or half of a gifted teacher, or something that
I think the gifted
put on hold?
That's already included in there, the addition to the gifted staffing. There was other staffing in the spring that we had postponed, which I think will come up again because to be honest with you, in October, we usually look at enrollment projections again for the next year. So we're going to be looking in October, we'll be sharing with you how the revenue projections are looking for the current year. And that's when we are already starting the next budget year. So we're going to be looking at the timeline, and then in November, we'll bring a preliminary proposed budget without additions to you, just so you can see where we are. Because we have an early January deadline if we're going to opt out of any increases beyond the Act 1 index. So I think this was the only holdover from the March Finance Committee that was moved forward, that was held until September, unless I'm wrong, unless there's some.
I think you're right.
I don't remember any other holdover.
Yeah.
But we'll certainly be revisiting many of those items as we talk about next year's budget already, because it'll be coming up.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Let's see. 13.9, approval of textbooks for the 2021 school year. John, this is your favorite part.
Right, here's your
So
chance.
moved.
Approval of
That's what I've
textbooks.
been waiting for.
Approval of textbooks for the 2021 school year is presented and approved by the Curriculum and Instruction Committee at the Committee of the Whole meeting on September 8th, 2020. Do I have a motion? Should I give
So
this?
moved. If Kathy reviewed this in curriculum and forwarded it, so moved.
Mr. Deal, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Stutzman, any discussion?
We need more of this.
Yes.
Okay, we'll do more.
This is his favorite part. You can't deprive him of it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.10, approval of waiving of athletic tickets fees and if spectator attendance is limited to COVID-19. Approval for waiving of athletic ticket fees for the 2021 school year if attendance is limited due to COVID-19. This approval only waives the ticket fees for the 2021 school year if the number of spectators who may attend an athletic competition is limited due to the COVID-19 in accordance with the district school and athletic activities reopening health and safety plan. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Booth, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
Aye.
passes. John, was that an aye or a nay?
Which one?
That was an aye. Aye. Aye.
A little delayed. 13.11, approval of a fall community swim clinic program for high school and middle school athletes. Approval of a fall community swim clinic program for high school and middle school student athletes to have access to aquatic training clinics as presented. This program is contingent upon high school and middle school athletic programs operating during COVID-19 in accordance with the district's school and athletics activities reopening health and safety plan. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. DiMarino, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Deal, any discussion?
I think that's great. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. John, I think you're delayed.
That's what it is.
Am I again?
Yeah.
Your connection is not great. Yeah.
The hallway is not helping you out.
Although you got the second in there pretty quickly. I was going to second it, but he got it in. So
Start early.
My computer tells me I'm unstable. So
I don't think you need your computer to tell you that.
Not wrong.
Item 13.12, approval of construction change order. Approval of construction change order for the high school chiller project as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Oh, geez. Mr. DeFore, you are the loudest. Do I have
Yes.
a second?
Second.
Dr. Melnizek, any discussion?
I would just like to make a comment. finishing these chillers actually makes it possible to exchange air, which is very important during the COVID-19 health and safety issues. So to finish this was, I don't want to say a stroke of luck, but to have this up and running as quickly as we did is something that is really intrinsic to going forward to having kids back in our school. So I'm glad this got done. There is a change order, obviously, because some of the site could not be seen until it was taken apart. Anyway, I just wanted to try to explain the importance of that chiller project and how grateful we should be that it has been completed in time for this very unusual year. That's the end of my story.
It was fortuitous.
Yes, it was.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? There is a thumbs up feature, you know that.
That's a good one.
Oh yeah, can you just use that?
Motion, sorry, any opposed? Motion passes. 13.13, approval of resolution calling for charter school funding reform. Approval of resolution calling for charter school funding reform as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Excuse me, Mrs. Munson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Booth, any discussion?
I will jump in here again. I have sent this to the board several times. This is an issue that is very expensive to school districts. This is, it is the funding formula that needs to be revised and to be realistic that will save every school district across the state a lot of money if the assembly will take this up. And I keep working at this, and I'm glad to see this resolution. The superintendents are on board. Chester County Legislative Council is on board. And I think we just have to keep bringing it to the public's attention. And I'm grateful to see it again.
And I would like to add to that that the CCIU has produced some excellent reports on how much money is going from each of the Chester County schools out to charter schools. And they break it down by IEP students and non-IEP students, because the IEP student amounts tend to be higher. And they are working very hard to provide services which are in many cases better than what the charter schools offer, that are all publicly funded and cost a lot less than the charter schools. So this is something that is very much needed in Pennsylvania.
I would add, you know, everybody who's watching this tonight, get off and sign a letter or call your congressperson or legislative person in Harrisburg, because school boards can do this every year, right. But until there's a groundswell of support for this and the politicians are learning that it's maybe going to cost them their jobs, then they may react.
Yeah, we're working on this from a different angle as well. It got cut short because of COVID-19, but we're working on it in a different manner to try to bring it to direct attention. But it's not looking to get rid of these schools, but it's looking to create a better formula that works better for everybody and that is fiscally responsible. So that's where we're going, and you're right. Anybody who wants to pick this up and call whoever they know and write whatever letter they want to or whatever email they want to would be extremely helpful. There's all kinds of information that we can provide on this issue.
Mrs. Crumrine, can I put you on the spot for a second?
Can try.
Can you give me an average of what's being sent out per student for charter schools?
Sure. I mean, I would use $20,000 per student per year as an average, because as Mrs. Munson mentioned, the special education student tuition is closer to $30,000, in the high 20s. And the regular education students are approximately, between 10 and 12. So a little bit over 20,000 a year. And we are at 1.3 million for the last school year, and we are anticipating, as I think Mr. Friel or somebody mentioned it earlier, we're going to be closer than 2 million to the 2 million mark this year.
So Mrs. Crumrine, remind the board, how much do we receive annually for each student?
We really don't receive anything from the state anymore. We used to. There was a reimbursement formula. I'll have to double check that to see if there is some de minimis amount anymore, but yeah, it's negligible if there is. It's just gone down and down every year.
And so we pay $20,000 for every student that goes. That's the average. Some we pay $32,000 for.
Right.
And so that's concerning. It's not as though we're receiving money.
Correct. It's really legislation that requires us to pay the tuition for any public charter school student to attend wherever they may want to attend. And it's the same price, which is really, really important right now, to the brick and mortar as it is the cyber.
Correct.
And the cyber
Yes.
schools don't have the infrastructure that the brick and mortar charter schools do. So there's always some proposed legislation. It really never seems to go through, though, to distinguish the cost differential and reflect that. That's not happening right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I did want to clarify that the funding formula stands the same, whether it is a brick and mortar, or a cyber school. So there is a big differential there on their cost. And this has been going on for around 20 years. It is time to look at it. Even the brick and mortars, you could say there was an argument to begin with because they didn't have any infrastructure, but that time is long past, and it's time to reevaluate both of those funding formulas. So any help we can get, we're grateful for.
Mrs. Crumrine, a quick question. How do those payments go out? Are they monthly payments? Are they paid lump sum? Are they, like when we look at budgets, just trying to anticipate what our payments will be? How are they paid?
They're invoiced monthly. So we receive monthly invoices from the cyber and brick and mortar charter schools.
Okay.
So it's important that we do our due diligence and verify, because, they're sending invoices out to tons of public schools. So we're always checking to make sure that that student does reside in our school district. Then it is our responsibility to pay that bill.
Okay.
And then there's a reconciliation at the end of the year that's done.
This is the issue that, as a taxpayer, infuriates me the most, is that we have great schools here in Owen J. Roberts, and that we as taxpayers are paying an average of $20,000 per student to go to a cyber school or a charter school when we have great schools here. That infuriates me as a taxpayer, that we pay that money, that the taxpayers of the school district are paying for that. If we didn't have great schools, you could probably convince me of that, but we've got great schools here. And that's why it's infuriating, and more taxpayers, I think, need to understand what it means.
And what do we estimate the in-district cost of educating a student at?
I would say it depends on the year you're looking at, but I would say an average of
Range even.
18,000.
How much?
About 18,000 if you're looking at your all-in costs.
Okay.
Actually, I would add to what Dr. Lloyd was saying. Yes, we have great schools, but the way that state level funding works in Pennsylvania, having great schools does not necessarily mean that you're getting an appropriate amount of money if other school districts are losing their students due to flight to charter schools because their public option is not offering as good as the charter school is. The state funding is going to that as well. So OJR ends up essentially underwriting the cost of education in lower performing school districts across the state because we are not getting more money from the state, because all that money is going to the underperforming schools, and they are simultaneously paying more to the charter schools. So the whole flow of money, it's imbalanced. It's very imbalanced in Pennsylvania currently. And this is really the first thing that needs to be fixed.
Yes.
All right, any more discussion? We're good. All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 13.14, ratification approval of professional service maintenance agreements. Ratification approval of professional service maintenance agreements as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Deal, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Friel, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. I like your thumbs up, John.
Just in case I'm unstable.
Item 14, public comment. Information, proposals, and statements from individuals or delegations pertaining to any item. Speakers are to indicate your name and township of residence. Speakers will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Please understand this is not a time for dialogue with the board. Rather, the board will listen to all comments and consider them in future deliberations. Also, if you have a question for the school board, keep in mind you can also email us at our email address and you will receive a written response. And then just a guideline for anyone that's tuning in that hasn't tuned in before. In order to make a public comment, you just need to use the raise hand function. And then when it's your turn to speak, just say your name and your township of residence.
Mrs. Prophet, the first person is Heather McCreary. Ms. McCreary, you are unmuted. Seems to have a problem unmuting. We'll go to the next person, Ms. Denise Wilson.
Hi, I'm Denise Wilson of East Vincent Township. And I just wanted to say that I did ask the school board several school boards ago about how much money you guys got from the CARE Act. I found out how much money you guys got from the CARE Act from the Tim Hennessy newsletter. And Owen J. Roberts got $194,099 from the CARES Act, but none of you could tell me how much you got. So my question is, where did you put that money?
Would you like me to respond, Ms. Prophet?
Jackie, you want to jump in on there? Because I know we went over that.
Sure.
It was a while ago. We went over that one.
Right, and actually it is posted on our website. So if you go to the finance department section of the website, you'll see a summary of all of the grant dollars that we have received during COVID, and it is more than $194,000. And our expenditures, you know, we're applying for grants all the time so that we can help offset the costs. And expenditures for the grants that we've applied for are to help with our Chromebook purchases, to help with our PPE supplies, to help with our teachers on assignment who are supporting our students with technology. So those are the type of things that we're using the funding for.
Yeah, it was a little over 600,000. I don't know the exact number, but you go to the, I guess it's on, you posted on the website, right? Because this was the last question. It was on the 27th at our finance group, but it's a little over $600,000.
Mrs. Prophet, the next person is Dana Phone. Dana, please give your name and township of residence. You are unmuted. Go ahead, Dana.
Oh, hi, Dana Chaffone, East Vincent Township. Thanks. I actually wanted to ask about the CARES Act too, but it was coming at it from another angle. I believe it was in the Inquirer where they just talked about the $13 million that was spent by Chester County on a failed antibody test. And I'm just wondering, I was looking at what the county allocation of CARES Act funding was for Montgomery County schools, and it was quite a bit higher. And I'm just wondering, is the school district considered filing a right to know to understand if any of those monies that were used for the failed testing would have been allocated back to our schools in Chester County?
I'm happy to help with the response on what we're doing now with the county. So we, as the school district, have not filed a right to know, but we are working very closely with the Chester County Intermediate Unit, and we have provided them with dollar requests. And there is a request into Chester County for assisting schools with funding. so that some of those dollars would flow to schools, similar to the way it did in Montgomery County. So we are working on that request. I mean, the request is probably there. I think it went at the end of last week.
Ms. Prophet, the next person is Andrea. Township of Residence, please, and full name. Thank you. You are unmuted.
Hi, Andrea Manival, East Vincent. So just circling back to my question earlier. So I'm just curious about the plan for, I understand that Cyber Academy students, you would like us to, wait till the end of a quarter to, I guess, apply to come back or whatever.
Mhm.
So my question is, what if the end of the first quarter, it's only 50 kids, but what if it's 700 or 1,000? My understanding was that, like in the elementary school, you could, safely have maybe 15 desks per classroom. What is the plan for that?
And so we have asked people to try to commit for the marking period, because we need to plan, just as we needed to plan for the Cyber Academy, we would need to plan for students to return. And so tomorrow, principals will be sending out a communication. My communication will go out tonight, telling people the plan to move to blended, and then the principals will be following up. I believe, Andrew, what's going to occur is they're going to create a, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call it a waiting list. But it's really of people that are interested in coming back from the Cyber Academy, who've tried it out and have now said, this isn't what I thought it was, or this isn't for my child, for whatever reason. People change their mind. And that was our plan all along, was to create a system that was so flexible that would allow people to be able to change their mind, or for students to come back when parents were comfortable with that. So the principals will be contacting parents and wanting parents to commit for the remainder of the marking period. But if that's not possible, then we want to know that. We want all of our students to be successful. And then the principals will be able to make plans for how many people want to come back. And I forget what grade your elementary child is in, Andrea. So forgive me. But if we have 20 some students that are in that grade that want to come back, well, that's a teacher right there. So there's just some planning that needs to take place for the people that want to come back from the Cyber Academy. But we absolutely, our system is designed to have that flexibility because we want all students to be successful.
Yeah, just to reiterate on that, Susan, it's not a facility capacity issue.
No.
At all. So to Andrea, I think you were asking about the facility, so it's not that. It's just the allocation of staff and teachers, right? If you have somebody dedicated to cyber, and if you pulled 500 kids out, you'd be moving teachers and staff over. So the impact is on, who's your teacher then moving from one to the other, and a planning, staff planning.
To
Right?
backtrack a little bit, when we first looked at planning for reopening, it was a space issue because there was that foot mandate. Now we are not in that challenge. Now we're just trying to meet metrics. So that's what we're really looking at for in person.
And Andrea's right. On average, it's 15 desks per classroom. That allows us to keep students at 6 feet apart. So we do need to keep that into consideration. That's why I say it's more about planning. It's not that we don't have space, which is what Mr. Friel was saying, but we do need to plan if students are going to come back from cyber.
So Susan, are you saying it's more like instead of moving one student at a time, you almost have to move one class at a time back to blended? Okay, so you need enough kids to make up a class so that you can move the staff with that class.
Right.
Got it.
Exactly.
For elementary.
For elementary, right.
Correct.
But middle and high school, there's still more flexibility with individual students?
There's even more flexibility at the middle school and the high school. Of course, we need to be mindful of class size, because if we only have 15 students in a class, we need to be mindful of that. But that's what everybody's working on right now, is looking at the breakdown of the alphabet, how many students are are in the class. Do we need to make any kind of adjustments? So we got lots of time for that.
Mrs. Prophet, the next person is Lisa Yost. You
Hi,
are muted.
this is Lisa Yost from South Coventry. This is just a question based on the previous. So if a class in elementary were moving from, if you had enough kids in a class to move from cyber into brick and mortar, and you potentially moved a teacher, would you then be reorganizing the classes remaining in cyber?
That could potentially happen. That's why I said we will start. I'm going to call it a waiting list because I don't have a better word for it. But we want to find out what the interest is on the part of parents to do that. We don't have a sense of that since we're only 2 weeks in.
Yeah, I guess that's very concerning to me as a cyber parent, and certainly not the impression we were given when we made that selection.
We just don't know right now what the interest will be on how many parents would want to come back. We don't have a sense of that at all. We're just responding to Andrea's question if she wanted to come back, could she?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
The next person is Heather McCreary.
Can you hear me this time, Paul?
Yes, Heather, you are unmuted.
Okay, something went weird, and also I think Andrea had a problem too, because I think Andrea expected to talk back to you guys and you guys shut her off. So real quick, and I'm going to set my own timer here. I think there's a lot of misinformation, and I know I said this before when I write to you guys. I think there's a lot to sort through, but the data in the beginning and the pandemic has shifted. And what's come out is that Chester County has not been doing the best for its residents. And that's a bipartisan issue that covers everybody. And yet you guys are still insistent on following that data, even though you had Director Kasner in. So I want to make everybody clear that the sport issue is just limited to Chester County. 85% of the schools across the state are playing. A lot of them, actually, when PIAA said go forth, boom, they went right away, not Chester and Delaware County. I'm a little bit concerned when I hear people on the board actually taking credit for stuff that the community knows you did not do at all. I'm also a little bit offended when I hear again from Mrs. Booth that she writes to the governor repeatedly about charter school reform, and yet nobody wrote to the governor about letting spectators into a stadium. Boy, I was at the Renaissance Fair. I went there first on the way home from a soccer match years ago. We haven't missed a year. The amount of people, spectators at the Renaissance Fair, singing, playing musical instruments, performing, there is no reason to support the governor's order on gatherings that was held to be unconstitutional. And again, at this point, I'm asking you guys to do what you can Friday night for senior night. I hear you relying on the PAC. Well, who from the O&J Roberts goes to the PAC? I know that the superintendent, the high school principal, and the AD go to PIAA, but somebody from O&J must go to the PAC meetings. Who was it? I will file a right to know, and I will ask. I want to know who at our district was looking out for our district kids. What a shame that the band can't march in, perform, and leave. What a shame that we can't consider it 3 venues: home, field, and away game. We all know this is all political. We all know, in addition to Governor Wolf's nonsense, that we also have to deal with Chester County. Central League didn't miss a beat. All of their schools are playing. Next door in Great Valley, they haven't made a decision yet. Chestmont said it was up to the individual schools. Everybody said up to the individual schools. Why are you in our school not allowing the most amount of people safely distanced, wearing masks, to sit in the stadium for senior night? Those kids deserve this. I'm going to post on my OJR SB 2021 site, where I don't have to get attacked, the names of the local politicians who voted against our kids on this bill. That includes Katie Moose and Daniel Friel Otten.
Mrs. McCreary.
Mrs. Prophet, it looks like Mrs. McCreary may have 2 devices on. Her hand is up, was up. I'm going to check and see if that's the same.
Hello?
Yes, you are unmuted.
I'm a different Heather.
Okay, sorry about that. Just name, full name and residence, please.
Heather Zabicki, North Coventry Township. And I just wanted to get a clarification on Dr. Lloyd's plan of October 12th and 19th start dates. Was there a decision made tonight as to when that decision was going to be made? I think there just needs to be a little bit of clarity there, or if there's going to be a separate meeting regarding that.
So, Mrs. Zabitsky, and I'm sorry, I probably said your last name wrong. So the board already approved an in-person plan. Basically, in our plan, it stated that we were going to follow any recommendations, and that recommendation was to go virtual until October 9th. And then this is just Dr. Lloyd's plan to get us back in school based off of that recommendation. And so there's no further action that the board needs to take.
Okay, so as of now, can we assume that students will go back to school either their respective A and B days the week of the 12th or respective A and B days the week of the 19th?
As long as we can keep staying within those metrics that we need to hit, we fully anticipate being back.
Okay, and I just wanted to thank everyone for allowing parents to participate in their children's sporting activities this fall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is probably Miss Denise Wilson.
Do we have any other, just to?
We do not.
Okay.
I just wanted to thank Heather McQuarrie for working on the sports for our children so that our children are allowed to play sports. They've had to give up a lot this year, and it really feels good that they have something to look forward to. And if it wasn't for Heather and the students, there would not be sports for them. And I'm very happy that she did what she did and that the kids are able to play sports. That's all.
All right, thank you.
This is Prophet Holly Liebecker.
Okay.
Holly, you're unmuted. Please, Township of Residence, please. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Holly Lebkicker. I logged in about 30 minutes late, and I'm wondering if somebody there could tell me if a vote was taken by the board for my daughter to attend O&J Roberts School District. I was told there.
Sorry, can you clarify? Are you talking about for in person?
No, my daughter was supposed to graduate from O&J Roberts last year. She was a senior. She lived in East Coventry Township. We received, there was an error somewhere along the line with teachers, staff, whatever, on how many credits she actually had. And it turned out that she was actually missing a credit and therefore could not graduate. I was told by the IEP team, her guidance counselors, and the technology department, as well as the Chester County Intermediate Unit, that the school board would be voting tonight to let us know if she was going to be able to finish the one credit that she was missing from O&J.
Dr. Lloyd, I'm gonna throw this to you.
I know. Holly, we'll give you a call tomorrow. Dr. Marchini is handling this, and we'll give you a call. We don't discuss individual students at board meetings, so we'll have somebody follow up with you tomorrow.
The next public comment is Heather McCreary.
Yeah, when I was on before, I still had 6 seconds left. So I think I was going to say I'll post my own information on my own school board page for 2021, but I also want to hit on a different topic, which is 52 million, which is what's paid out at Coatesville. So I don't want to get too lost in the weeds about the small amount that O&J pays out. I think that's a distraction to the issues that are going on, because the problem that you have right now is people are not happy with their virtual schooling. And so the longer you guys wait to delay getting everybody back into school, the more reality is that people are going to want to leave and go sign up for real charter schools, cyber schools, whether they're charter, whether there are other schools that pop up, that is an issue. People are complaining that their kids are sitting in front of the computer for 5 to 6 hours a day, and that actually is not how a real cyber school starts. So I think you guys should probably also meet in person. Great Valley School Board's actually meeting in person now. So at least you guys should get together and try to be together in the same room as a group, right? Because I think you need to be on the same page and get back to the message of being there for these kids and sort through your issues that you have, and please let more children into the stadium on Friday night. Senior night is for the kids. It's for the kids to be in person in the stadium and to cheer their teammates on. They worked hard and they deserve it. Thank you.
Heather, I thought you were baiting me on calling you after 6 seconds on that comment.
The next problem.
No, we do have, let's see, I'm here, John's here, it's 2, Kathy's here, 3, Dr. Milnazek's here, 4, Mr. DeFore's here, 5, Mrs. Booth's here, 6. We just don't have the technology to get us all in one room and on Zoom.
Well, we can, but we tried it and the quality was, yeah, it was hard to hear. It was hard to, yeah, we discussed that before.
But there are 6 people in this building.
We have someone else, like Greg, popping up a hand. Just, I don't know if we saw that. Just FYI.
Hey, Leslie, there's one more. Greg, please, Greg, your full name and township of residence, please.
Yeah, my name is Greg Engelhart, and that's East Vincent Township. Just wanted to thank the board for allowing our children, as a parent of an OJR athlete, to participate in sports, including football, but not just football, but all the sports, including field hockey and other extracurricular activities such as band. While it is hard that we won't be able to invite everybody we would like to games, it is great that I and my wife will be able to watch our son play. We are grateful for the board to work with the PAC to identify a solution given the pandemic. And I really appreciate that. And as a parent of an athlete, a multi-sport athlete at that, I just wanted to say thank you to the board, regardless of the negative comments we're hearing from other people. Parents of athletes are very appreciative of what you have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Prophet, that's the end of public comment.
All right. Okay. Item 15, board discussion and follow-up. Board discussion. I was speaking with the other board presidents in Chester County, and we got on the topic of public comment, and I just wanted to share with all of you. Interesting. Many of our Chester County counterparts do not allow live public comment. It is done through email, and they sort through what they want to read, and they read it for a couple minutes, and that's it. And I want to commend you all for still allowing live public comment.
It's good sport, Leslie. It's good sport.
Leslie, 2 things that I have. I just would like the board to be aware that the high school principal and the athletic director attend the PAC meetings just the same way that they do the PIAA. They're the ones that are in attendance, and we're in attendance today for the vote that took place 8-4. So not everybody was in support of spectators, and I don't want anything to jeopardize our students and their parents from being able to see our athletes play by crowding that stadium. Also would just like to also make a point of clarification, because there was some inaccurate information that was stated earlier in the meeting. Unionville Chet's Ford had not voted on opening. Their meeting is tonight because they were not pleased with the projections for their part of the county, and so they did not vote to reopen. They'll be voting tonight, probably the same as us, to open on the 12th. Everybody's got a different hybrid plan, and so when you hear that a school is opening their doors for 5 days in a row, you have to ask, what does that 5 days mean? And in the case of Unionville, their students will not be attending all day. Their primary students will just be attending half a day of school. So while they might come 5 days, they won't be coming 5 full days. And the board will recall that Unionville is the school district that voted to hire 20 new teachers this year in order to be able to allow for that to happen. And that was a very expensive undertaking. But again, every school district's budget is different, and each school district chooses to spend their money different. And those are the choices that they have made.
Dr. Lloyd, are they the district that also hired like their own private medical consultant?
They
Okay.
do. They,
In
much different
addition to the
finances than
teachers.
we do, Mr. Deal. We're much more conservative, fiscally conservative than they are.
Got it.
I have a quick question, and I'm so sorry to belabor the whole sports thing, but something that was said, I was confused about. So we are able to live stream all of our sporting events. What's the scenario there? Is that everything, or just football, or what's going on with that?
We can live stream. We just have to have somebody that is willing to do it for us. So, like for example, the band live streamed their event. That might have been Mr. Mengel himself, but some school districts have a high school student that does it, and they live stream it over their YouTube channel that way. So since we've learned that we're able to do that today, I'm sure that Mr. Richardson and Dr. Cuthbert will be setting out to figure out who's going to be able to do that so that we can offer that for folks that are not able to be there.
And just one other thing, with the PAC meeting, was there any discussion, or will there be about like post-season events, like championships and things like that, or not doing that?
I don't know if there were any discussions about that. Those are not the discussions I've been having with them. My discussions have just been about having athletics and being able to have spectators. We haven't talked about the postseason yet and what that looks like.
Okay, thanks.
Any more discussion, guys? No? Okay. All right, item 16, board request for information. Any requests for more information?
Yeah, I'd like to, one request is that when we talk about like the number of kids going out to alternative schools, cyber charters, whatever, can we get some kind of comparison at some point now that enrollments are over for the year, like what our withdrawals look like this year versus maybe the past 2 years, just to give us an idea, from a finance standpoint. That's why I asked how we pay our bills, like what to anticipate, but also, do we have any kind of maybe it's more board, do we have any kind of exit interview process? Do we know why people leave? Like, could we group things together in case there were underlying, issues that we should maybe attempt to address in order to make our district more appealing versus the alternatives? Do we currently have anything like that, or no?
No, not that I'm aware of, but we are currently in the process of contacting everyone that is in a cyber school, tell them about what we have to offer and see if they're interested in returning. They may not know that we now offer that. So we're in the process of working our way through that list.
Might be something we want to think about for the future, is just some kind of a exit interview process. I mean, I know most of the kids that I know that have done cyber did so because of, some kind of athletic opportunity that they had, but I know that's a minority. So just point of interest, but I would like to see the numbers at some point.
Sure.
Just to follow along,
Gave
John,
us.
to Jackie, this will be into your, kind of leads to finance as well. And it's a little bit along that. Maybe something we can take up at the COW is when we're talking about cybers and what does a cyber look like outside of COVID. We had talked about that pre-COVID and in the beginning of last year, and I think it's probably a good time to, so in a request for information, benchmark existing cybers, like give us the ratios of, how many students do they have, and per teacher, and what the financial picture of a cyber looks like, and some other school districts that did it. And again, not the COVID version of it, but like a true cyber academy. What does that look like? and then marry that with, like, to John's point, the whys of, what does that student population look like relative to our population? Is there a difference that's discernible that would be meaningful to understand?
Mr. Friel, just to clarify your request, are you requesting for public school information regarding public schools that are running their own cyber charters?
So both public schools, like for instance, Downingtown is running their own public cyber, or Westchester that stood up then, and also public cyber charters like Ancora, somebody who has like a simple, they're a union cyber charter that would have a similar, I guess, constraints that we would if we were thinking about what does cyber look like at O&J beyond the COVID crisis. Does it make sense for us to investigate that? So some data that would support just what those benchmarks look like in those public cyber charters, and also the public school districts that have stood up a regular charter outside of COVID.
All right. Any more requests for information? All right, item 17, we're going to adjourn. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.